Welcome to session 5 of the Abstrakt Sales Academy. My name is Scully, and I'm happy to be here to share the 10 steps to closing more appointments, which is kind of appropriate, right? Because it's what we do for a living. Hopefully you are getting a lot out of the Sales Academy and collecting the workbooks, doing a little homework, taking some stuff and really working on it as we go week to week. I think today that you will find that probably these points that we go through are not new, but maybe we forget to follow every one of them in our day-to-day interactions with prospects and clients. So hopefully this will remind you of all the important things that we need to do to close more for our clients. Sound good? All right, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is knowledge. Okay, that's step number 1. I think before you get on the phone or before you're in front of a prospect face to face, that you absolutely have to have the knowledge to be able to be successful. Okay, you have to understand what your product is, or what your solution or service is. Who are you going after? What is your target market? What do your competitors look like? What are your differentiators? And too often, when somebody is trying to set an appointment, they don't have that knowledge to be able to do so. And sometimes that can stop us from actually picking up the phone, can't it? So that time when you feel really, really good about a client, where you don't even think about strapping that headset on and dialing a phone and having a conversation, right? Because you're so confident about the client, the product, the market, their competitors, their sales process, that you get right on and you have success, okay? So a lot of times we go too early and we don't have the knowledge necessary to get on the phones or go face to face to realize success in setting an appointment. I can't emphasize this enough, the importance, even as you have your clients and you're mature in the process of working with your clients, that you can continue to gain more knowledge as you go along. Things change, right? Their products change, their solutions change, there's different competitors that come into the marketplace. There's just a lot of things that can be obstacles or hurdles in the way of your success. And if you have all the knowledge necessary, then you can set more appointments. Does that make sense? Does anybody have an example of that? Maybe where they didn't have all the knowledge necessary, and when they studied and really gained more knowledge, they started to have more success on a client. Does anybody have an example? Matt?
I can think back when I was a business growth manager, partner sales representative, when I was working on Vertella, which is a very complex technology company going after Fortune 500 organizations. And I didn't fully understand their mobile device management solution at the beginning and what the benefits were. And after studying and diving into it, I realized that it was an industry changer, and that was their biggest differentiator in the marketplace. So I went from setting 3, 4, 5 appointments in a month to up to the 10, 15 range, by fully comprehending their solution set, offering, and how it would be beneficial to their target market, who you were actually trying to get in front of and set an appointment with.
I love it. It's a perfect example. I use sports a lot when we have conversations, but we had 2 very good teams that just played in the Super Bowl, and you think that there was a lot of studying that was going on before that game actually occurred. And as the game was going along and plays started to unfold, there's lots of folks that are watching video, looking at the offensive plays, the defensive plays, all of the strategies, and making game time decisions. They're gaining knowledge as the game's going along, and they're using that knowledge to be more successful, right? Same thing with setting appointments. It is absolutely necessary to have the knowledge to be good, to be consistently good at setting appointments for a client or for yourself. So the next thing is to design a script. Okay? So now I have the knowledge, but I can't just get on the phone and start making dials. Okay, a lot of you have call guides. You take those call guides and move along into the process of developing your own scripts. If you don't, you should. And what can a script help you do? What is the reason for a script? Anybody?
Trying to baseline performance.
Set a baseline, consistency.
Conversation.
Right? It's like a play, right? It's like a play that you need to practice and practice. So I have up here within a script a wow statement, we call it that, right? So there's only a short period of time when someone answers the phone that we have to gain attention. So we have to design that wow statement for our client to make sure that we keep them on the phone long enough so that we can engage, ask questions, identify a problem, point out the solution, and get in front of them, right? So we have to have a wow statement. Sell the appointment, not the service. Has anybody been on the phone too long? Have we, as you gain knowledge, one of the things with that is that you could dive too deep and now you're trying to sell the product over the phone versus trying to sell the appointment. Does that make sense? We want to sell the product or the solution when we're sitting in front of them. We want to just make sure that we get a good, solid appointment with the right prospect. Use a story. Do stories work?
Oh, yes.
All the time, right? So when we're working on behalf of clients or when we're selling on our own, there are stories, there's success stories, case studies that make it just that much stronger, to get somebody excited so that they want to get in front of us or get with us to talk about our product or solution. We just had a wonderful thing happen in our sales department for Abstrakt where we had 2 or 3 clients go out on LinkedIn and talk about using us for 2 years, using us for 3 years. They maneuvered through talking about trying in-house appointment setting, trying other companies, and then landing on us and saying that it was, one of the easiest decisions that they could make to go a 3rd year using our services. Okay, so then our sales guys, when they had that information, of course, as the days unfold, they're using that to set an even stronger appointment because they're getting people excited. You're talking about their niche. You're talking about success stories within their niche, which is going to resonate. It's going to sit home with those folks, and you're going to set more appointments. Sell the club. So what I mean by selling the club is this. If you're talking to somebody, they have to feel like you are representing a company and a product or a service that is so worthy and so important that if they are not meeting with you, they feel like they are missing out. They feel like they will not be part of the club. Okay? The way that we roll into a town is we talk about the fact that we will be meeting with all of the IT firms or the HVAC companies about an exclusive product, okay? And we want to position it in a way that they are so excited about hearing what we have to say and what is coming to their marketplace that if they miss out on the opportunity to hear about it, they're not part of the club. I have always been good at setting appointments. I certainly have weaknesses, okay? But one of my strengths is setting appointments, and it has been because I've always made it like they're missing out if they're not going to meet with us, okay? Very, very important. Exclusivity kind of rolls into that. Not all products and solutions are sold that way. Ours is. And when somebody feels as if they would be the only one to get a powerful solution in a marketplace, then that can strengthen your ability to get an appointment. So if there are people that we are serving at Abstrakt that where their product is exclusive in nature or they can only represent one person in a particular marketplace, then it would be important to bring up the exclusivity. Variations for gatekeepers, influencers, voicemail. A lot of times we'll have a script, one script, but we forget about designing variations to get through a gatekeeper or if we land on a voicemail, or if we have to send an email, or we may even use an influencer, to get over to the decision maker. And regardless of where you are and where you are maneuvering, you should have a different play or a different script for that scenario. Okay? So as you're getting a hold of gatekeepers and you land on something that's successful, then you should build that out. And then you should use that with repetition so that you can get through gatekeepers more often. Okay? Or get return calls from voicemails. Or seriously influence an influencer so they go over and get the gatekeeper to call you back. Okay? So I have always had a script. I'm one of those guys that can't do a sales pitch, or I can't set an appointment without having a script first. So when I sold, I had an absolute word for word sales pitch, and I knew it by heart. And when I was a sales manager, I made people learn it word for word, okay? And then I had a pitch check system that went along with it, because I knew that if together we landed on a script that was powerful and it worked, if we did that consistently over and over and over again across a big group of sales folks, we could have the most success, and we did. So if you do not have a script with different variations for every one of your clients, I would suggest doing that tonight. Make sense? Okay. So the next thing is develop a strategy. So what do I mean by developing a strategy, do you think?
Finding a path to least resistance.
Finding a path to least resistance. Okay, what else?
Just working your pipeline. Maybe if you set an appointment with a specific industry, maybe just pulling up a list of them, say we're meeting with XYZ,
Yeah.
whatever.
What else?
Seeing where you're,
Targets.
I'm sorry?
Know your targets.
Know your targets? Mike?
seeing where you're having success and replicating it over and over and over.
Okay. So you could have a strategy even if you're dialing through 100 names. It might be, I'm going to use my script for this scenario. If this person answers, this is what I'm going to say, or here's what I'm going to do. Or if I'm calling this industry, I'm going to bring up this story. Or I'm going to call this particular client from 8 to 10, not 2 to 4, because it's this marketplace and I've noticed that my success rate is better in this time bucket. Okay, so as you go along, you need to notice what is successful, and you need to develop a strategy, a winning strategy. Okay, you may have a goal of setting 2 or 3 or 4 appointments a day, but if you don't know exactly what you're going to do when you get in that day, then you're going to fail. Maybe not every day. Okay, you might be successful some days, but I'm assuming that everybody in here wants to be successful every day. You want to go home feeling like you did everything that you could do for yourself, for your clients, and it's going to take a strategy like anything else. If you're looking to lose weight, we have a weight loss contest going on here, right? So you can say that you want to lose 30 pounds, but if you don't have a daily or really even an hourly strategy to do that, it's not going to happen. Right? So some of the things may be that you're going to do cardio for 40 minutes a day. You're going to take in, 1,500 calories. Whatever it is, it's a strategy that you're following on a daily basis. The same thing holds true for appointment setting. I can tell you that most people don't follow a strategy. They don't. They get on the phone and they just start ripping through names, and they hope that they have success. And then again, sometimes they do, but then the next day they're going to wonder why they don't. Okay, so it's specific niches, or the time of the day, the number of dials, the rotation, right? You have to know exactly where you're being successful. Okay, I will tell you, for me, when I set appointments, I probably shouldn't say this in front of you guys, but I had a particular target that I had to hit. It was not 4 a day, it was much more than that. Okay, I had to set, to go out and see car dealers, we had to have 7 or 8 appointments a day times 4 days, right? So let's just call it 30 plus appointments. Well, I will tell you that my least favorite thing to do was actually set appointments. I was more of a face-to-face guy, okay? So I got my appointments done 2 days, okay? And the way that I did it was that I would go for 2 hours, all right? And I would sit down and I would dial for 2 hours straight. And I would dial, honestly, 75, 100 at a time for 2 hours straight. And then I'd go do something else for an hour or two. And then I'd come back. I only spent 4 hours on the phone for 2 days, and most of the time I lined up my whole trip doing that. But I had a strategy that worked for me. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't answer the phone. I didn't look at email. I didn't return phone calls. I didn't do anything else that other than dial with a strategy as much as I could during those small buckets of time. Okay? So there are things that we can do to make sure that we have a strategy. You have a client, okay? And we're doing our best to look at stats and align them in the appropriate buckets. But if we start to notice things, and we should call, over here as opposed to back here, then we need to start to adjust that. If we start to notice that we have more of an impact calling on engineering firms for an IT firm, like for a particular client, we need to exploit that, right? We need to be the IT provider for engineering firms, period. All right? So develop a strategy, really, really important. The next thing is role play and practice, okay? So anything in life takes practice. So the fortunate thing, I guess, and the unfortunate thing about sales is that there is not a huge barrier to entry in becoming a salesperson. Okay, you don't have to go to another 8 years of school to become a salesperson. Okay, so technically more people can get into sales jobs than become a doctor or a CPA. Okay, so I guess that's fortunate that you can get in. The unfortunate thing is that, as a profession, I think it takes it on the chin because not as many people take it with the same seriousness. They don't get into the continuing education. They don't continue to expand upon their knowledge, upon their skills, okay? And just like being really, really good at a sport or playing an instrument or being a good father or having a really good relationship, there is a lot of work that goes into it. So, oftentimes, we forget about role playing, like altogether. And we figure that when we get on the phone, that'll be enough. Well, I've got, 20 hours this week representing ABC, HVAC. I got all kinds of interaction. Well, if you are with a peer at night or call each other on the phone or while you're eating lunch, or even if when you go home and you are pitching a wife or a husband or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a son or a daughter, then that's additional practice, and they're going to notice things that maybe somebody else wouldn't, especially if it's one of your peers. So if you are not engaged in role playing on a weekly basis, I would suggest doing so. And surround yourself with people that are successful at what you're trying to do. If somebody's setting 4 and 5 and 6 appointments a day, seek that person out and sit down with them on a weekly basis. Ask for help. Role play with them. But role play constantly. Does that make sense? How many people in here role play? A couple of you. Okay, good. How many people in here think that they should role play? Maybe almost everybody, right? It's just a matter of time probably, right? So does everybody in here eat lunch for the most part? Okay. So imagine using just 15 minutes of the 1 hour lunch period to role play and then go to lunch. Or role play at lunch. They may think you're crazy down at Big Daddy's, but that's all right. We give them a lot of business. So I would do it. Or even if you were role playing during the day, imagine if you did that a couple of times a week, how much better you'd be at your job. So you feel like you'd be losing time, but actually you'd be more productive with your time overall, and you'd set more appointments. You have to role play. So you don't go out and run a marathon without practicing. You can't. Most of us can't. Okay? You have to step into it. So if you want to set appointments every day and be real good at it, can you just get on the phones and do it? Chances are you can have success this day and maybe not the next day. Do you want to be 3, 4, 5 appointment a day player? You better role play. Often. Make sense? So realize that there is no perfect list and cleanse. We may just hang on this slide for a little bit. So is there anybody in here that has said, wow, this list is awful? Okay? So I've got a story for you. I was at NADA. It's a conference for automotive dealers, huge conference, all kinds of vendors. It's really, really cool. Lots of really good companies. And data is important in the car business for marketing. And I'm going up and down the aisles, and I noticed this data company. You know, I won't mention who they are, right? And I said, man, you know what? I'm going to take some time to walk over because I've just been hearing about lists, and I'm going to go sit with this guy, right? So it turns out that I sit down with, like, second in charge of the whole pretty decent sized company, right? And we're talking, and he's like, our data is better than anyone else's. I said, oh, really? Why? And he goes, well, our owner is the guy that sold Info USA is the company that made Sales Genie, right? Which is a tool, one of the tools that we use. So now this guy goes over, he starts another company. They're one of 3 original data people. So what that means is they've got huge call centers, and they're calling through lists, and they're trying to identify decision makers, presidents, CFOs, IT directors, phone numbers, email addresses, whatever they can, right? But it's really, really expensive. And even if they get a hold of somebody, which a lot of times they don't get a hold of people, right? Even if they're trying them all year long. You guys know this, right? So there's a lot of people they don't get a hold of where they can't verify the information. Okay? And then as you can imagine, based on the city, the marketplace, it's different. So there can be holes in the data in a bigger city versus a smaller market where somebody wants to pick up the phone and talk. So this guy's like going through all of that. There's 3 of us, but we're the best because we're the originator, and now we're starting, and we're one of 3, and I'm telling you, we are just more accurate. So I'm sitting down there, and I give him 5, just one at a time, 5 different companies, right? I'll look up Abstrakt Marketing Group. Wrong, right? Doesn't have my name, any of the partners' names, has us at the wrong address, wrong phone number. So I go through 5 different companies. Every one of them's wrong. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, pretty accurate. And he's like, he had an excuse for every one of them. And really, they're good excuses. And because honestly, I wouldn't have picked up the phone to answer somebody's questions to help them, with what's going on at our organization, and probably a lot of people can't. And maybe they get to a gatekeeper that doesn't know all of the information, or quite frankly, maybe they got a hold of them and then that changed. There's a new president or there's a new IT director. It happens all the time. And how did they know that? They got a hold of him yesterday, the guy got fired the next day. So here's what I'm trying to say. The lists are going to be different depending on marketplace, depending on industry, and the lists do suck. And that's why we offer such an important service, okay? When we're on the phone selling our service, one of the first things that we bring up is that we go through a cleansing phase. So even though this amount of people look like your target, we first have to get on the phone to find out if they are actually a fit, go through, ask questions, and identify if we should put them further in the process. So, one of the most important things about setting appointments is cleansing and making sure that you have the appropriate information so that going forward you can drill down to the decision maker and set an appointment. So I love using Brian Condon as an example. okay? Because there's a couple of things that he did when we called on car dealers. The first thing that he would do is literally, because, honestly, he wanted to spend the least amount of time doing that as possible too, so that he could get to the decision maker. He would rip through 100 people. He wouldn't even ask to be transferred. Who's your general manager? What's his direct line? Do you have an email address? Great. Hang up. and then he'd go through that, right? And a lot of times he'd have an email address. So at night, he'd send emails, or if he had a direct line, he could deliver an after hours voicemail. So imagine that if you guys are collecting direct lines, and we do that for a lot of folks, the work that you could do after 5 for our clients to have success, or if you collect an email address every time, okay? So it is really, really important as you get on the phone, every dial, even if you don't make it to a decision maker, obviously part of our process is cleansing. There's some new things coming out that we're developing where we're going to be able to use all that data and display it in a different way on our client portal, which will be awesome, okay? But every time you pick up the phone, ask questions and record that data so that your job is that much easier the next time you pick up the phone. I mean, imagine how powerful you could be if you collect a direct line and an email address from everybody you talk to. Do it. Make it easier on yourself. Make sense? Okay. Bring your A game. All right? That just worked out. I see a banner. What do I mean by this? What's that?
So a lot of things. It's,
Well, what are a couple?
focus, energy, drive, everything that we've talked about in the previous 5 slides. Have all of that done and ready before you're ready to embark upon the call.
Yep. Good, thanks.
Somebody that you would set an appointment with, rather than, this guy's fired up, excited.
Yeah. So, has anybody had a bad day, ever? I have bad days. Do you think people can tell when, I know people can tell when I have a bad day. Do you think people can tell when you're on the phone and you have a bad day?
Absolutely.
Do you think that if you're having a bad day all day and you dial 135 times in a bad mood that you're going to be as successful as you would be if you reframed and just turned that day around and realized that you could literally change that day at 8:15 into a good day versus a bad day? That you guys could be successful? It's the hardest thing in the world, isn't it? Like, we could talk for hours just on this one. Right? That's what Ben Newman does, right? He makes a living talking about this. It's so important about being internally fired up and bringing your game every day and doing things every day that you know are going to put you in a positive frame of mind so that you can be successful. If you walk in and something hits you and you're starting to get a bad attitude, like walk back out. Come back in. I mean, do that as an exercise. Take a walk around the block. Call a friend. Do something for 15 minutes that you really enjoy to get you in a positive frame of mind, right? This is one of the biggest keys to success. And people wonder, like, they dial the heck out of the phone. They'll make 200 dials that day when they're having a bad day where they're grumpy, and then they'll go home and say, I just don't know what the heck happened. Right? But if we were to be honest about what happened, probably didn't bring their A game. They know if you're desperate. They know if it's 3 o'clock and you don't have an appointment and you're just trying to get an appointment with the wrong person. So you can put it up on the board so it'll just get disqualified by quality anyway. I mean, people can tell. And you guys that have been doing this long enough have heard about the mirrors and cubes and smile and dial and all that good stuff, right? But at the end of the day, you have to be in a good mood. And there are things that you can do that you know put you there, whether it's working out or spending time with your kids, spending time with your wife, eating the right things. There's just a bunch of things that put you there. And it's one of the only things we can control, right? In the Northeast, there was a bunch of snow, wasn't there? And so not only were we probably upset about the fact that it was hard to get a hold of somebody for our clients, I'm sure they weren't very happy because their businesses were impacted, right? So now all of a sudden we're just in this slump. But just imagine the conversation that you could have if you're positive and you make enough dials. You're going to run into somebody that is just caught up in how positive and excited you are about the solutions or the products that we're providing. You get an appointment even in a tough time. It happens. Like I saw the biggest shift, and they were having a good month anyway, but when there was a couple of those good reviews that came back from a couple of our clients, the IT reviews, to see what happened in sales and just getting these reviews and sending them out and just the fire and just the focus, right? It's just a great case study. It's like there was something there that gave me just a little bit extra energy, and I was so positive and so focused and so on fire that I mean, these guys got a contract or two based on sending an email that had a good review in it. We have other good reviews that we could send too from the past, right? When I was at the same NADA conference, Brian and I went to 3 meals, okay? One of the things that we love to do when we go out of town is just go get and hit a good restaurant at night, right? It's one of those things that you can do. You can talk about business, enjoy the food, wine, whatever it may be. So we go to 3 meals. The first, unbelievable environment right on the water. And we both walked in and said, oh my gosh, the ambiance is unbelievable. This is gonna be great. Well, we had to go get our waiter. And then when he was there, he looked at us, kind of grunted, right? And the whole experience was miserable. So my steak wasn't that bad, but I can tell you that I left thinking it was one of the worst steaks that I've ever had, just based on everything else, okay? So then we go the next day to a restaurant called North Beach Italian Restaurant, which turns out, after we left, we realized that is the best Italian restaurant, at least people rate it that way, in San Francisco. And I know why, okay? I've had really good Italian all over the country. I love it, okay? This was good. Maybe it wasn't, I thought it was the best Italian I've ever had during the process, but I will tell you that the waiter that came up was absolutely unbelievable. And the way that he treated us, and we would order one thing, and we ordered a certain bottle of wine, and that changed everything. I tried to order something, he totally canceled it, you know? Brian did the same thing. That's not going to go with that wine. And then he's talking about their prosciutto, right? And he's like, well, I don't know. Wait, I don't even know what I'm thinking. Come with me. And then he takes us to the basement where they're like curing it themselves, and it's hanging from the rafters, and it's explaining the process, right? He walks us right through a party that's downstairs in the basement. He's pointing to it, and they're looking like, what is this guy doing? Then we come up. We sit down, and he's bringing all these trays, and every time, he'd like lay the tray down, he'd say, I don't know who you know in the kitchen, boss, but you must know somebody, look at that, you know? And the whole time, right? And we felt unbelievable. It was an incredible experience, and really good Italian food was probably that much better. And it was this guy's attitude, and you watched around the restaurant, and the same thing was going on at the other tables. And I just, would challenge you to try to go a whole week with that kind of attitude and see what the results look like. I bet you guys were already doing a good job. I bet that it would be even better at a whole nother level if you had that kind of experience, okay? Know your business development formula, okay? So most of you have been doing this long enough where you know what it takes. There's more things to look at in our sales department when you're taking it all the way to the sale. So you could go and say, I need this many dials to have this many contacts, actual decision makers that I get a hold of, to have this many appointments that I set, to have this many pitches scheduled, to have this many pitches actually show, to have this, those people that show actually turn into a contract. And there's less steps when we are selling appointments for our clients. But at the end of the day, after you've spent a couple of weeks doing this, there is a formula. And you should know it inside and out. And it's going to be different based on the markets you're calling and the types of industries that you're after, okay? The types of products and services that you're representing. But at the end of the day, you should be able to drill down on exactly how many dials it takes you to get a hold of somebody that makes a decision, and out of those decision makers that you get a hold of, there should be a close rate on the appointments that you're setting, and it's completely different from client to client and market to market. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is, let's say that you represent an IT firm and they're in Pittsburgh, and it takes twice the calls in Pittsburgh as it does in Des Moines, Iowa. Well, then what are you going to have to do? And then it becomes part of your what for the day? Strategy, right? Okay, so we used to do this in sales. We would have our maps every week, and we'd come in, and then we'd plug the activity that was done the week before into the business development formula, and then people could kind of evaluate themselves how the last week went. Okay? Right? I mean, if you know that you need to make 600 dials for the week based on your stats, but you made 400, well then shame on you, right? If you know that you need to make 600, you made 700, and you didn't have success, let's evaluate the formula. Was the formula right? Do I need to tweak it? Was I comparing this market versus that market? But you should be studying everything that you're doing, because your work will become predictable, and you should know exactly what you need to do when you come in to have success. And if you're committed enough to do that, that's exactly what's going to happen. Does anybody have any questions? I think we maybe pound this to death around here, but are there any questions about what I mean when I'm talking about a business development formula? No? Okay. Use a multi-channel approach. We have a multi-channel approach within our process, right? For a reason. And what we're literally trying to do is surround a decision maker. We don't know if they're going to pick up the phone today, if they're going to read their email today, if they're going to do both. If they'll be on a social network, if they'll be on LinkedIn, establishing connections and doing their own prospecting out there, okay? And so today it is even more important to use a multi-channel approach to getting a hold of decision makers. We have people on the sales team that may set more appointments on LinkedIn sometimes than they do on the phone, or at least they are serving themselves up or establishing some sort of a relationship there, which is going to make it that much easier to get on the phone and set an appointment. Okay? And when I say multi-channel approach, I'm talking about other things too. Like I told you that I made a lot of dials in a short period of time. I will tell you that I took full advantage of every one of those calls. I tried to work on the gatekeeper, and if I couldn't, then I would say transfer me to a sales manager or an IT director, and I would try to work on that person as an influencer. And then if that didn't work, then I would ask to be transferred to voicemail, and I'd leave a voicemail, and I might even transfer back out and try to get a hold of somebody else. Okay? So when I say multi-channel, it's not just going to LinkedIn and sending an email and trying to leave a direct message and using the phone, but it also might be multiple people as well to try to warm that business up so that you can be successful. One of the things I did in the car business is if the person wasn't there, right? The general manager wasn't in, I'd say, okay, transfer me to service. And then I'd get transferred to service, and they're busy and they're in the middle of things. And I'd say, hey, can you transfer me to the general manager? And they'd transfer me right to the general manager, and all of a sudden he'd pick up, and then the guy had to talk to me. Okay? So take full advantage of every call and use a multi-channel approach, because I promise you that you're going to have more success in doing that. Any questions on this? Study. Study, study, study. So we talked about knowledge up front, right? But then things change. And I'm not only here talking about knowledge of the client, knowledge of the industry, but I'm also talking about sales techniques, negotiation techniques, how to overcome objections, how to leave a good voicemail. There's a lot of things that I'm talking about. And I know, because I do it sometimes myself, that when we leave here, there's also a lot of things that hit us at home. But I also know, right before bed, there's probably some time where I could spend 30 minutes doing something to further my career. Even if I want to spend quality time with my kids, which I do, or if some of you want to be with a spouse or a significant other, I'm not suggesting that that isn't priority, because it is. But there is some time during the day, 30 minutes, where you could be studying your career, your clients, your marketplace every day. And you should schedule it in, and you should do it all the time. We represent a ton of IT clients here, and there are a lot of you that would probably be considered experts in the field, but does it change every day? Does that field change every day? I mean, do you realize these guys and girls that run these MSPs, what they're doing on a daily basis to make sure that they are ahead, staying ahead of technology and where things are going? It's ridiculous. Because it's almost impossible in that industry. So if you're working in that industry and you're trying to set appointments or close appointments for clients, study the industry. And if you're going to be an impactful salesperson, day in and day out, study sales. Okay? Jim's building a library of resources, which I think are going to be great, that you guys are going to have access to. We have this Sales Academy so that we can learn how to be better salespeople, better account managers. So those things are good, but there should be more, and you should schedule it. Because it is not unlike anything else in your life that you're involved in. If you want to be good at it, it takes time, it takes commitment, and you can't do it part-time. Does anybody have an example of this right here where it doesn't even have to be sales, but it was something in life where you were very serious about being successful, and so you put the time in and you consistently study, and you're performing at another level, a level that you wouldn't have or wouldn't be performing at if you didn't study? Yeah.
Maybe till 7 o'clock stay, even when I'm doing automotive, but even after automotive, I'm doing research on different ways, different niches and different markets to try to get an upper hand on situations, kind of, doing some research on where certain businesses in that type of market is going, as far as, I'm calling IT, so there's always stuff changing in the IT world. So I make sure that when I'm here and I'm done doing what I have to do, I'm at least taking the time to gain some more knowledge on what I'm taught, on what I'm calling.
Good. It's working out, right? Yeah, Sean.
Cole and I went to sell MSPs better and got certified with Dell and VMware through their courses to become Dell Direct and VSB5 certified reps.
I'd say that helps, right? I mean, Cole right now from the sales perspective and the types of conversations that he's having, and you on the partner sales side, right? And helping people learn a more impactful way to set leads for our IT firms. One more. Colin.
I've played drums for 15 years and I'm still pretty awful, so I try to play about 2 to 3 hours every week just to stay on top of it. And actually, they did some research on like the experts, like expert violinist, expert golfer, expert marathon runner, triathlon, decathlete, whatever, and basically did some research on how much time those people practice throughout their careers. They're obviously still practicing, but in many cases, those people were averaging like 3 hours a day of practice to do world-class violin.
So most of us heard Colin on the drums. I think he might be still a little upset that he didn't take home first. But I would say that.
I was wondering where the reward is.
But I would say that we would all agree he's a really good drummer, right? And I bet he could even be better if he put that amount of time in daily, right? It's not his career. Right now, it's a hobby. If it was his career, then he may do that, right? But he practices, and he's done it for a long time, and it's very clear that he practices and that he's a good drummer, right? So it's a good example. Okay, good. So the last thing is remember 1 through 9. All right. So we went through 9 different steps that are really, really important. And what I will tell you is doing number 1 or doing number 7, maybe doing number 3 and 4 sometimes, will not lead you to the type of success you could have if you do every one of these things all the time. Day in, day out, month in, month out, all year, every year, and you'll have more success, okay? Again, not unlike anything in life where there is a process to be the best, and you can't do it halfway. If you're going to be really successful, it takes commitment. And every one of these steps is really, really important to you getting to where you need to be. You know, with us, the people that do well on the phones earn their way to different levels, make more money, earn promotions, right? And it's not unlike that, or other organizations are similar, right? Success means that you get to continue to move forward in your career. And if you're going to spend X amount of time daily at work, right? Because I know that lots of you would like to be with your kids or with your husband or doing those things that you love to do outside of here. If you're going to spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day at work, then why the heck wouldn't you push open the doors and go home with a smile on your face having success? You're going to be here anyway. It doesn't take extra time. It takes a commitment to doing the right things in that time to have success. Seriously. I mean, there are people that would stand up here and say you need to put 12 hours a day in to be successful. I would tell you, you just need to be better with your time. And to only spend time on those things that are going to make you move forward. There's some really, really, really successful people that go home at 6. But those people are laser focused on what goes on during the day, and I promise you that they're doing all of these things religiously. Okay? So we will send out these workbooks. And then honestly, as we are giving you this material, I would almost build a binder and go back to it, use it as a reference tool. You guys set appointments every day. These are not new topics. But as we were going around and raising hands and admitting certain things, I think we are all at the realization that even though these aren't new topics, we're not doing them every day. So you might even print out the cover page of the 9 steps and the repeat. And remember that on a daily basis, that you have to be involved in these activities to be the best you can be at setting appointments, which is where we spend our time, where we exist. All right? Anybody have any closing questions, comments? Nope? Okay, have a great day.
Thank you.